Remember this number, 30%. That's the difference between how often men reach orgasm during sex compared to their female partners. Study after study, involving tens of thousands of people, shows this same pattern across short-term relationships, long marriages, happy couples, and even those who report feeling deeply connected. But before we start blaming age, biology, or compatibility, here's the truth. This gap is not caused by anatomy alone. It's not a result of getting older. And it's not simply about sexual mismatch. In most situations, it comes down to one simple reality. Men were never properly taught. And once you truly understand this, everything about sexual connection begins to shift. My name is Dr. Julia Rouse. I'm a certified men's sex therapist, and for over a decade, I've worked closely with men and couples on issues related to intimacy and sexual health. Over the years, I've noticed the same pattern repeating itself. Men feeling confused, frustrated, or quietly concerned that their partner doesn't seem fully satisfied. But I've also witnessed something powerful. When they finally receive clear and accurate information, their relationships don't break down. They improve, not because they become different people, but because they finally understand what was missing. That's the purpose of this conversation. Real, research-based insight. No outdated myths, no guesswork, just clarity that genuinely helps. Let's take a closer look at the orgasm gap. This isn't just a vague idea. Large-scale research published in respected journals on human sexuality, involving more than 50,000 adults, consistently shows the same trend. Around 95% of heterosexual men report that they usually or always reach orgasm during sex, while only about 65% of heterosexual women say the same. This difference appears again and again across countries and studies. Now, this isn't about turning intimacy into a competition or reducing connection to numbers. Orgasm is not the only measure of satisfaction. For many women, emotional closeness, feeling safe, and being connected matter just as much, sometimes even more. But the gap still matters because it highlights something deeper. Not a lack of desire, not a lack of attraction, but a gap in understanding. Most men were never truly educated on how female sexual response works. What they learned was often incomplete or heavily focused on penetration as the central element. Female pleasure was often described as complicated or mysterious, when in reality, the issue wasn't complexity, it was a lack of proper education. When we look at anatomy, things become clearer. Modern research, especially findings that gained attention in the late 1990s, revealed that the clitoris is not just a small external structure, it's part of a much larger internal network, with branches extending inside the body and surrounding parts of the vaginal canal. What people often think of as separate areas are actually connected components of one unified system designed for pleasure. This changes everything about how stimulation should be understood. Female pleasure is not random or vague. It's physical, structured, and highly responsive when approached with the right understanding. Clinical studies on sexual response reveal something important. A large number of women either require direct clitoral stimulation to reach orgasm or strongly prefer it for greater satisfaction. In simple terms, for most women, this type of stimulation is not optional, it's central. Yet culturally, many men are still conditioned to believe that penetration alone is the main focus. This mismatch between what is taught and how the body actually functions is one of the biggest reasons the orgasm gap exists. This isn't about performance or skill. It's about awareness and understanding. Many women experience significantly more satisfaction when attention is directed toward what their body is naturally designed to respond to, rather than relying solely on penetration. Qualities like patience, presence, and attentiveness to what feels good make a far greater difference than most people realize. But there's another layer that is equally important: emotional safety. Research into female arousal shows that the mind and body are deeply connected. There's an internal system that responds to signals of safety or stress. When a woman feels emotionally secure, desired, and connected, her body becomes more receptive. But when she feels stressed, overlooked, pressured, or emotionally distant, her body can naturally resist arousal, even if physical stimulation is present. In other words, the body has both an accelerator and a brake. The accelerator responds to desire, touch, and emotional closeness. The brake responds to stress, tension, or discomfort. And for many women, that brake system is particularly sensitive. This means that no matter how technically correct the physical approach is, if emotional safety isn't present, the body may not fully open to the experience. So the real explanation behind the 30% gap isn't just about physical technique. It's about understanding both the physical and emotional aspects of intimacy. When knowledge, attention, and emotional presence align, connection deepens and satisfaction becomes shared rather than uneven. And that's the shift this understanding creates. Again, remember this number, 30%. It represents the difference in how often men and women reach orgasm during sex. Across extensive research involving tens of thousands of people, this pattern continues to appear in long-term relationships, new connections, and everything in between. But the truth remains the same. It's not mainly about biology or age. In most cases, it comes down to something missing, something many men were never taught. And once that gap in understanding is filled, everything about intimacy begins to change. This isn't about judgment or pressure. It's about awareness. Emotional safety is not separate from physical arousal in a woman's experience. It's often the foundation of it. It's what allows her body to fully respond. In everyday life, emotional safety looks simple but meaningful. It's a relationship where she feels seen as a whole person, not just a partner in intimate moments, where appreciation is expressed regularly, not only in private settings, where conflicts are addressed and resolved rather than ignored, where she can express her needs without fear of criticism or dismissal. For men over 60, this becomes especially significant. Years of habits don't change overnight, but they can shift with consistent effort. Men who begin investing in emotional connection outside the bedroom often notice the greatest transformation within it. Because intimacy doesn't begin in the bedroom, it begins in daily interactions. Another key change is slowing down. If there's one adjustment that creates the biggest improvement, it's this: take more time. Research consistently shows that women often want more time, not more advanced technique. More time for touch, for connection, for building anticipation before penetration. What many people call foreplay isn't just a preparation phase for women. It is often the main experience. From a physiological perspective, female arousal generally takes longer to build. The body needs time for comfort, natural lubrication, and full responsiveness. Studies often indicate that many women require around 20 minutes or more of stimulation before penetration feels truly comfortable and pleasurable. Yet in reality, many couples spend far less time than this. For men over 60, this presents an opportunity. Aging naturally encourages a slower pace, and instead of seeing this as a limitation, it can actually become an advantage. A slower rhythm often aligns more closely with what a partner has needed all along. Many men who embrace this change find that their connection becomes deeper, calmer, and more fulfilling for both partners. The female body also evolves with time. After menopause, reduced estrogen levels can affect tissue elasticity and natural lubrication. This doesn't eliminate desire. Many women remain deeply interested in intimacy, but it does mean the body may require more care, more time, and sometimes simple adjustments like lubrication or gentler pacing. What matters most is attitude. When a man responds to these changes with patience rather than frustration and curiosity instead of assumption, it sends a powerful message. She is still desired, still valued, still important. That alone can significantly enhance both emotional openness and physical response. Finally, communication is essential. Many women don't fully express their preferences, not because they lack awareness, but because the environment doesn't always feel safe enough for honesty. As a result, many couples rely on assumptions instead of clarity. The couples who experience the greatest improvement are those who learn to communicate openly outside the bedroom, not in moments of pressure, but in calm, everyday conversations. Asking simple questions like what feels good, what could improve, or what she would enjoy more can completely transform the dynamic. The key is to listen without becoming defensive and to respond with care rather than ego. When communication becomes mutual and open, it stops feeling like feedback and starts becoming connection. In the end, the 30% gap isn't a mystery. It's the result of missing education, emotional disconnection, rushed pacing, and limited communication. None of these are permanent. With awareness, patience, and emotional presence, the experience can change for both partners. Because real intimacy isn't about performance, it's about understanding. And that's what truly transforms everything. In conclusion, the so-called 30% gap is not a fixed biological issue. It reflects gaps in understanding, emotional connection, and pacing. A woman's sexual satisfaction is shaped not just by physical technique, but by emotional safety, patience, communication, and feeling genuinely valued. When a man slows down, becomes more attentive, and creates space for honest connection outside the bedroom, everything within it begins to shift naturally, especially in long-term relationships and later stages of life. Small changes in awareness, care, and communication can completely reshape intimacy. At its core, this isn't about performance. It's about understanding your partner as a whole person and building a deeper, more meaningful connection.